Greetings everyone who is watching my video. So today I am doing, or rather solving, grade 10 problems based on algebraic expressions. So we have a problem here. Given t is equal to the square root of x plus 5 divided by x minus 1, where x is an element of -6, -2, 1, and 4. Choose from the given set of number of x for which t will be 1.1 rational, 1.2 non-real. So in order for you to solve this problem, what you need to do first is you must understand what is a rational number. So a rational number is a number whereby, for example, if you had a number p and q, they should both be integers. What do we mean by they should both be integers? That means that they can either be positive or they can be negative. Yeah. But q at the same time cannot be equal to 0. Also, p and q should terminate. For example, if you were to do 3/4 on your calculator, it will give you 0.75. This number ends here. It does not continue. It ends here. It terminates. Or 6/5, which equals to 1.2. You can see this number ends here. It's just 1.2. And also, it should be a repeating decimal. For example, it's 0.3333. The number is 3 until the end. Or 2/3, which equates to 0.6666. Actually, it's just the same number after comma. So this dot here means that this number continues. Okay, I'm supposed to put move words here. This dot tells us that this number continues. Or yeah, that's about it for rational numbers. That's the definition of real numbers. Let's now get to the definition of a non-real number. So for a non-real number, it's a situation whereby you are having a negative number under the square root. Once you understand what is a rational number and non-real number, you can now then go ahead and solve your problem. Good. Now that we understand our definitions of rational and non-real, we can go ahead and solve the problem. So how do we solve the problem? You have to test these numbers. So if you take a lot of practice, you'll end up solving these problems just by looking at them. But that's not what I advise learners to do. It's not very safe to do in a test situation. So what you have to do is to quickly input these numbers into the given equation. You start by the first number, which is -6. What happens when you input this number into this equation? So we input -6, it's going to be -6 plus 5. That gives us -1. At the bottom we have -6 minus 1. That gives us 5. Okay, so when we analyze this here, we see that 5, it's a rational number, but the number at the top, which is -1, it's a non-real number. So this makes the whole thing to be a non-real number, just because we have a negative number under the square root. So -6 cannot make our equation to be rational. Okay, and then now we're gonna go ahead and input -2 into our given equation, and see the result. So we put -2, you're going to have -2 plus 5 at the top under the square root, which gives us the square root of 3. And then at the bottom, we have -2 minus 1, which gives us -3. Doing the analysis, -3 is an integer, yes, because it's a negative whole number, right? At the top, we have the square root of 3. If you do the square root of 3 on your calculator, it gives you this number. Look at this number. It does not have a pattern. It does not have a pattern. You have a lot of numbers after a comma that do not have a pattern, or rather they are not repeating. So which is going to make this number irrational. Going ahead and inputting 1 into our given equation, we have 1 plus 5 under the square root, which gives us square root of 6. We have 1 minus 1 at the bottom. You have 0. So because we have 0 here, actually this number is going to be undefined. Anything divided by 0, it's undefined actually. But then the number at the top, the square root of 6, because it also has numbers after the comma which do not have a pattern, it means we are having an irrational number at the top. The square root of 6 is an irrational. So square root of 6 actually is an irrational number. But then the whole thing is actually undefined because you are dividing by 0. Whenever you are dividing by 0, that is undefined. So anyway, we can see now that this one is it's an undefined number. It's not rational. So let's mark them wrong, the ones that they are not rational, because we are looking for numbers here that will make our given equation to be rational for 1.1, right? So continuing to inputting 4 into our given equation, we have 4 plus 5 at the top, which gives us the square root of 9. 4 minus 1 at the bottom, which gives us 3. So we have the square root of 9, it's 3. So we have 3 over 3, which equates to 1. So 1, because 1 is a whole number, so the results are that the number is rational. So you have now answered the question. When you input 4 into this equation, the result is that you're gonna have a number which is rational. So I think I forgot to also mention that here on under rational numbers, you can also have what, a whole number. A whole number. If you have a whole number which is not a fraction maybe, or it does not have decimals, it's a rational number in addition to whatever is already here. So that's how we solved 1.1, which required us to determine which number here can make this equation to be rational. So that number was 4. So I've already explained. So now let's go to 1.2. Which numbers here can make this equation to be a non-real, right? So inputting all those numbers into our paper, it now enables us to see all the solutions, because we already have non-real. We've already made a situation whereby we are having a non-real number, of which is when we are inputting -6 into our equation. If you input -6, we are getting a negative number under a square root, of which is a non-real. So you already solved the problem. You are now saving your time in a test situation. So that number is it's -6, which is going to make our equation to be non-real, right? So I just want to advise learners that whenever they are answering questions, especially on let me say section 1, or rather maybe question 1 on tests, match test to be specific, or rather if it's an exam or a test, whatever it is, usually question ones contain such questions. So my advice is that don't rush to answer the questions, but rather prepare yourself, be ready to do some analysis, and make sure that you understand what is really required of you. If you practice a lot, you're gonna end up understanding these things. They're gonna be as easy as pie. You just have to understand what you are dealing with before you answer your questions. They can be tricky sometimes. They are very, very easy, but they can be very tricky. If you just do a small mistake, then you are gone. You're gonna get something wrong.